Okay, let's unpack this.
All right, so today we are cracking open something pretty important if you're anywhere near the defense supply chain.
Yeah, we're talking about the Certified CMMC Professional Test Blueprint, the CCP Blueprint.
Exactly. And look, this isn't just some dry list of exam topics. You really need to think of it as the DoD's own instruction manual. It's how they're defining the verification of trust.
Right. So our mission today really is to take this, let's be honest, pretty technical spec sheet and turn it into a practical roadmap. We want to get past just defining CMMC and really dig into what it takes professionally, the ethics involved, and, the specific way assessments are done to protect that sensitive data. We're talking FCI and CUI here.
Federal contract information and controlled unclassified information. Yeah, and this is critical because, let's face it, CMMC isn't just a nice-to-have anymore. It's fast becoming a requirement to even bid on contracts.
Absolutely. So if you're listening, maybe you're in IT, cybersecurity compliance, maybe even aiming to be an assessor yourself.
The stakes are getting really high. The DoD is the source here, the authority, and they're linking compliance directly to the rules DFARS 252.2047012 specifically. It's that verification piece that's, well, the key.
Okay, so before we even get into what you need to know, let's talk about just getting your foot in the door.
Yeah.
The entry requirements for the CCP exam, they're not messing around here.
No, definitely not. It's designed to show you're ready to handle, like you said, data that's vital to national security. So first up, the prerequisites are quite strict.
Okay, what are we looking at?
Well, you need either the academic background or real-world experience. So that means a college degree in a relevant field, cyber, IT, something like that. Or you need at least 2 years of related experience. And that includes military service, by the way.
Good point. Experience counts.
It does. And they also suggest you have a baseline of technical knowledge. They kind of benchmark it against something like the CompTIA A+ certification or equivalent knowledge, just foundational IT stuff.
Right, so that's the base layer. But what's the actual gatekeeper?
The big one is the formal training. You absolutely must complete the official certified CMMC professional class, and it has to be through a licensed training provider, an LTP.
Okay, mandatory training. Got it.
And here's a detail that catches people out sometimes, the timing on your DoD CUI awareness training. You have to pass it, obviously, but here's the kicker. It can't be older than 3 months when you actually sit for the CCP exam.
So you need to time that carefully. If that certificate expires, you're basically ineligible until you redo it.
Exactly right. Keep that timing in mind. So, okay, let's say you tick all those boxes, you get approved. Then you face the exam itself.
The gauntlet, as you called it earlier, what does that look like?
It's pretty intense. It's a closed book exam, no notes, no resources.
Wow, okay. Pressure's on.
Yep. You've got 170 multiple choice questions, and you get 3.5 hours to do it. Passing score is 500 points.
Closed book really signals something, doesn't it? They're not testing if you can look things up.
Precisely. It's about comprehension, application, knowing this stuff cold.
And what's interesting, thinking about this CCT role, for a lot of people, passing this exam isn't the end goal, is it? It's actually the beginning.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah, the CCP certification is the essential first step. If you want to become a certified CMMC assessor, a CCA, or even a certified CMMC instructor, a CCI.
So, as a CCP, you're basically part of the assessment team.
You're a key part. You're assisting the lead assessor through all the different phases of an assessment. You're the, let's say, highly trained junior partner in that process.
Okay. And this test blueprint we're unpacking, it basically tells you where the DoD expects your knowledge to be focused.
It's the clearest signal you'll get. If you're wondering where to spend your study time, just look at how the exam domains are weighted. The percentages tell the story.
Right, the domain map. Let's get into that. Because the weights are, well, they're not evenly distributed at all.
Not even close. There are 6 domains, but 2 of them are the real heavy hitters. The blueprint is basically shouting that about 60% of your value, your tested knowledge, comes down to just 2 key areas.
60%. Okay, what are they?
The 2 giants are Domain 4 and Domain 5. Domain 4 is CMMC Model Construct and Implementation Evaluation. That's the biggest slice of the pie, a huge 35%.
35%. So that's the real how-to of the controls themselves, understanding the practices.
Exactly. It's the nuts and bolts. Can you look at a CMMC practice requirement and actually evaluate if an organization is meeting it effectively? That's Domain 4.
Okay, and the second big one, Domain 5.
Domain 5 is the CMMC assessment process, or the CAP. That gets 25%. This is all about the formal methodology, the specific steps you follow, how you gather evidence, the reporting standards, all of that.
So if domain 4 is the technical what, domain 5 is the procedural how. Makes sense.
Precisely. And that combines 60% weight on just those two domains. That's the DoD telling you loud and clear. Practical verification skills, understanding the controls and how to assess them. That's what matters most. Way more than just, say, knowing the vocabulary of the ecosystem.
Interesting. So the remaining 40% is split among the other 4 domains.
That's right. You've got domain 3, which is CMMC governance and source documents, and domain 6, which is scoping. Those are both weighted at 15% each.
Okay, still significant chunks.
Definitely need to know them. And then the final 2 domains are much smaller, just 5% each. Domain 1 covers the CMMC ecosystem, and Domain 2 is the CMMC AB Code of Professional Conduct. Ethics.
Let's touch on that ethics piece, domain 2. It's only 5%, but you hinted it's foundational. Why dedicate exam space to ethics?
Well, think about it. The entire CMMC model is built on trust, right?
Yeah.
Verifying that organizations are doing what they say they're doing. If you can't trust the people doing the verifying the assessors, then the whole system collapses.
Good point. A certification is only as good as the integrity behind it.
Exactly. So that 5%, it covers really core ethical standards, things like confidentiality, keeping client data private, maintaining objectivity, no bias, rigorously avoiding any conflicts of interest, respecting intellectual property. It all has to align with the CMMC AB's Code of Professional Conduct, plus other standards like ISO AC and DoD requirements.
Okay, that makes sense. That integrity thread connects directly to the bigger picture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The whole CMMC ecosystem, which is domain 1. Who's actually who in this CMMC zoo?
Huh. Yeah, it can feel like that sometimes. You really need to understand the roles and responsibilities, the chain of command, if you will.
Yeah.
At the very top, you have the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense, or OUSD.
They're the rule makers.
They set the overarching cybersecurity standards, yes. And crucially, they apply the regulations, like that DFARS clause we mentioned, to actually mandate this verification component. They're adding the trust but verified layer into government contracting.
Okay, so OUSD sets the policy.
Mhm.
But who actually manages the certification process itself?
That's where the CMMC accreditation body comes, in the CMMC AB, now known as the Cyber AB. They're the ones who accredit the assessors, the instructors, the assessment organizations. They run the operational side of the certification infrastructure.
Got it. And then we have the different types of organizations involved on the ground.
Right. You've got the organizations seeking certification, the OSCs. These are the defense contractors, the companies that need to get certified.
Okay.
Then you have the CMMC third-party assessment organizations, the C3 PAOs. These are the accredited firms that actually conduct the CMMC assessments.
The auditors, basically.
Essentially, yes. And there's one more group, the Registered Provider Organizations, or RPOs. They're more on the advisory side. They help companies prepare for CMMC, offering guidance and consulting.
And the blueprint makes a pretty sharp distinction between the individuals involved, too, right?
Yeah.
Especially between those advisors and the actual assessors.
A very important distinction. You have registered practitioners, or RPs. These folks often work for RPOs. They're the consultants, the implementers. They give advice, help companies get ready.
Yeah.
But, and this is critically, RPs are explicitly prohibited from participating in a certified CMMC assessment. It's a firewall to prevent conflicts of interest. You can't help build the system and then officially assess it.
Makes perfect sense. So the assessment side starts with the CCP.
Yes. The CCP is the entry point onto the assessment ladder. From there, you can potentially move up to become a certified CMMC assessor, CCA, or a certified CMMC instructor, CCI.
And the blueprint mentions provisional assessors, too.
Ah, yes. PAs and PIs, provisional assessors and instructors. They were kind of a temporary measure put in place early on to get the assessment process started. The blueprint notes that these roles have a specific sunsetting timeline. The push is definitely towards the fully certified CCPs, CCAs, and CCIs now.
Okay, that clarifies the ecosystem structure. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about Domain 3 governance and link it back to Domain 4, the model construct.
Yeah.
This brings us to CMMC version 2.0. Why the revision? What changed?
Right. CMMC 2.0 was a pretty significant evolution. It came about because, well, there was feedback that the original version was maybe overly complex, potentially too costly, especially for smaller businesses. So 2.0 was guided by 3 main goals.
What were they aiming for?
First, a streamlined model. They wanted to focus on the most critical cybersecurity requirements and to make sure they aligned really well with existing accepted standards, primarily NIST SP 800-171.
Okay, simplifying the line. What else?
Second, reliable assessments. This meant increasing the accountability for assessors and assessment organizations, making the process more consistent, and ultimately the hope was reducing assessment costs because the requirements would be clearer.
More trustworthy assessments, potentially cheaper, and the third goal.
Flexible implementation. This was about fostering more collaboration between the DoD and contractors. It introduced a bit more flexibility in how companies could meet certain requirements, trying to speed up adoption without, compromising the actual security standards.
So streamlined, reliable, flexible, got it. Now, underpinning all these controls, all these levels, is the data itself. You mentioned FCI and CUI. A CCP absolutely has to master this, right?
Oh, absolutely. Data classification is fundamental. You can't protect what you don't understand. So first, there's FCI federal contract information.
What's the definition there?
It's basically information the government provides or that's generated for the government under a contract, but crucially, it's not intended for public release. The official definition is in the Federal Acquisition Regulation, the FIFAR specifically, Section 4.1901. Think of it as the baseline level of sensitive government contract data.
Okay, baseline is FCI, then we level up to CUI.
Exactly. Controlled unclassified information. This is governed by a different regulation, 32 CFR Part 2002, and also DoD Instruction 5200.48. CUI is information that requires safeguarding or dissemination controls, but it's not classified in the traditional sense, like secret or top secret.
And CUI isn't just one monolithic thing, is it? There's more complexity.
Right. This is key. CUI breaks down into basic and specified. Basic CUI just needs the standard safeguarding outlined in NIST 800-171, which forms the basis of CMMC Level 2.
Okay, so what makes specified CUI different?
Specified CUI comes with additional legal or government-wide policy requirements. Specific laws, regulations, or policies demand extra or more specific controls beyond the basic NIST set.
Can you give an example?
Sure, things like certain export control information, privacy information subject to the Privacy Act, or a common one in defense, naval nuclear propulsion information, NNPI. If you handle NNPI, there are very specific additional rules you have to follow. That designation drives higher or more specific compliance needs.
Gotcha. So that data classification directly links to the CMMC levels.
Directly. CMMC Level 1, which they call foundational, is really about protecting FCI. It aligns with those basic safeguarding requirements already found in the FAR, specifically FAR 52.204221. It consists of just 17 practices.
17 basic cyber hygiene practices. And level 2?
Level 2 is advanced. This is where most defense contractors handling CUI will likely need to be. It aligns directly with NIST SP 800-171 Rev 2. That means implementing all 110 security requirements from that standard.
And crucially, these levels are cumulative, right?
Absolutely. To achieve Level 2, you must first meet all 17 requirements of Level 1. Level 1 is the mandatory foundation if you handle any FCI, even if you don't handle CUI.
Okay, let's bring this back to Domain 4, that huge 35% chunk, the model construct. How should someone studying for the CCP exam think about this practically? It's not just memorizing 110 controls, is it?
No, definitely not just memorization. It's about understanding the intent and the application of the practices. For Level 1, think foundational cyber hygiene, stuff everyone should be doing.
Like what? Give us a couple of Level 1 examples.
Okay, take access control. Level 1 practices are things like AC.L1 TEF 3.1.20, which deals with verifying external connections, or AC.L 1-3.1.22, controlling public information, basically, making sure you're not accidentally putting FCI on a public website. Simple but essential.
Right. Basic user access, basic data handling.
Or look at physical protection, PE. Level 1 examples there include PE.L1 TAC 3.10.3, escorting visitors in areas where FCI might be accessible, or PE.L1 to SysD.0.5, managing physical access devices like keys or key cards. Again, fundamental physical security.
These seem straightforward, also common sense for any business. Why are they so formalized and critical in CMMC?
Because they form the verifiable proof of basic diligence, and the consequences for not meeting even these basic requirements, or worse, claiming you meet them when you don't, are serious.
What kind of consequences are we talking about?
Well, obviously, you might fail to get a contract award, or you could face contractual liabilities if something goes wrong. But the really big hammer, the one the blueprint implicitly points to, is legal action.
Legal action? Like lawsuits?
Specifically, liability under the False Claims Act. This is huge. If an organization makes a false statement about its cybersecurity compliance, maybe in their system security plan, or during an assessment, they can be sued by the government for defrauding them.
Wow. So saying you're compliant when you're not is treated like fraud.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
The Department of Justice has its Civil Cyber Fraud Initiative, and they are actively looking for cases where companies misrepresented their security posture to win government contracts. It underscores that your compliance assertion isn't just a technical statement, it's a legal one.
That really ramps up the pressure, doesn't it? And explains why the assessment process itself, Domain 5, needs to be so rigorous and procedural.
Exactly. That legal weight is why the how of the assessment matters so much. Let's walk through the CCP's role in those 4 phases of the assessment process.
Okay, phase 1.
Phase 1 is plan and prepare. Here, the CCP assists the lead assessor. You're helping analyze the company's system security plan, confirming the scope boundaries, what's in and out of the assessment, and actually helping develop the assessment plan document. You're basically doing the prep work, setting the stage.
Laying the groundwork for the investigation. Then phase 2.
Phase 2 is conduct assessment. This is where the actual evidence gathering happens. As a CCP, you're actively involved in collecting information using those 3 key methods we talked about: examining documents and configurations, interviewing personnel, and testing systems and controls.
Examine, interview, test. The EIT method.
That's the one. And you're not just collecting, you're helping score the practices based on that evidence. Does the evidence support that the practice is met? You help validate those preliminary findings with the lead assessor. You need triangulation. Maybe the policy says one thing, the interview confirms it, and a system test proves it.
Okay, evidence collected and scored. What's phase 3?
Phase 3 is report results. Your role here is assisting in drafting the final assessment report. You help incorporate all the findings, the scores, the evidence summaries. The lead assessor is ultimately responsible for submitting it to the C3PAO and the OSC, but the CCP helps compile that crucial document.
The official record of the assessment, and the last phase.
Phase 4 is the P or OA&M evaluation. POA&M stands for Plan of Action and Milestones. Sometimes an organization might have minor deficiencies that don't stop them from getting certified immediately, but they need a plan to fix them. The CCP needs to understand how these POA&Ms work, the scoring criteria, the timelines allowed for fixing things. It's about managing those follow-up actions.
Got it. So the CCP is involved end-to-end in the assessment lifecycle.
Very much so. Which brings us neatly back to Domain 6, scoping, that 15% domain. Why is defining the scope so important? Because it determines what actually gets assessed. If you get the scope wrong, the entire assessment could be invalid. The CCP needs to be able to help define the organizational boundary, the main entity being assessed, any supporting units, and, most importantly, identify all the assets that process, store, or transmit FCI or CUI.
Every laptop, server, network device, cloud service, anything touching that data.
Pretty much. And it gets tricky sometimes, especially with what they call specialized assets.
It falls into that category.
Things like Internet of Things, IoT devices, or maybe industrial IoT, operational technology, OT, like systems controlling physical processes in manufacturing, even government-furnished equipment or specialized test equipment. These often require different security approaches than standard office IT, so identifying them and including them properly in the scope is critical.
So getting that boundary drawn correctly is step 1, even before planning the assessment.
Absolutely fundamental.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground, from prerequisites and ethics to the ecosystem, the controls, the assessment process, and scoping. So pulling it all together, what's the main takeaway from this CCP blueprint?
I think the big message is that this certification, and therefore the exam, is heavily focused on verification and practical application. It's less about theory and more about, can you understand these controls? Domain 4, and can you follow the rigorous process to verify them? Domain 5. That's really the heart of it. It's about building trustworthy assessments to protect that critical defense information.
So let's leave our listeners with a final thought. The source material emphasizes that the CMMC levels are cumulative. Level 1 underpins Level 2. We also talked about the False Claims Act being perhaps the biggest consequence for getting compliance wrong. So consider this. How does mastering those seemingly simple 17 requirements in Level 1 basic cyber hygiene become the absolute bedrock for proving not just technical compliance, but also ethical and legal compliance? Even if you handle complex CUI later, failing that first foundational step could be your biggest vulnerability, legally speaking. That basic diligence is your first line of defense in proving you're a trustworthy partner.
That's a powerful connection. Your legal defense starts with proving you mastered the basics.